Welcome to tonight's edition of Resuscitation Leadership Conversations with me, Mano Ramadwa. This is a show where we bring enlightenment and resuscitation to the concept of leadership. Now tonight, you would realize that because it's even one of those favorite Mondays of all times, the Monday after the Easter, I am not just here on my own, because Easter is very important for families. But tonight, we speak about the effects of COVID-19 on families. And I am joined by a seasoned speaker, an author, a marriage counselor. His name is Pastor Joseph Marima, to help us to untangle this conversation tonight. We all know that COVID-19 has come and it affected a lot of people, and families were not left unscathed. But the question is, how far did it go to touch these families or to wreak havoc in these families? And my guest tonight will be able to help us, and I hope we are welcoming him on these conversations tonight. Pastor Marima, good evening. How are you?
Good evening. I'm fine, thank you, Pastor Ramadwa.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome, finally.
Thank you.
We have done this on radio a couple of times.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, but tonight we're doing it live here on Facebook at Greater Glory International Ministries.
Wonderful.
And how was the Easters and the whole celebration on your side?
Well, we had a very wonderful time over the Easter or Passover, as it is called.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a wonderful time, and all thanks to the Lord for all the good time that we have had, because we were remembering the precious gift that he presented to us, in that he died for us.
Yeah.
We were remembering his death, his crucifixion actually, death, burial, and resurrection.
Yeah.
So it was awesome.
It was awesome, and of course, we cannot actually separate family from this time of celebrations as well.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Families are the bedrock of the nations.
Yeah.
So when events such as these take place, you sure will have families participating in them.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And, you know, I was just thinking about the conversations that I had over the weekend. And people are saying, no, we are recovering and all that. And my question was, hey, by the way, where are we recovering from? And I just got reminded that, hey, by the way, there is this COVID-19.
Indeed.
Which has actually taken us, it's the whole year now?
Yeah, it is. It has been a year. Well, at times we tend to forget, because as we have come to know it, it is a new normal.
Yeah.
It's a normal that is new, and we are learning to live with it. And the recovery that people are talking about is a recovery from the devastation that has been caused by COVID-19.
Yeah.
And great has been the devastation, and we need to say that.
And we need to narrow it down tonight to the families, because in many other areas we have spoken about it, but with families, on this show, we have not really delved so much into it. And what areas of family, in your line of work, you do counseling to a lot of families and all that. Where do you find families having been hard hit by COVID-19?
Well, as you would know, Pastor, that the family is the foundation of the nations, meaning every person in their respective field of expertise, they are a member of a family. So, therefore, it leaves the family as one that has been hard hit by the COVID-19.
Yeah.
For instance, you look at number one, top of the list is loss of loved ones.
Yeah.
family has suffered that loss of loved ones. But also, that loss of loved ones has also brought about another loss, because in many instances you find that the departed were breadwinners, meaning the source of income is gone now. So financial effect, the negative effect that the family is feeling is both the loss of the loved one and the loss of income. And as a result, you find that the standard of life that families used to live has to be adjusted. And it happens abruptly because there was no preparation.
There's no notice period.
No, that's the sadness of death. You know, when we arrange a wedding, we set a date prior to the date of the event. And there's also an option of postponing or moving around the date if
things are not working out.
You know what I mean? But with death, it arrives and you have to deal with it right there, whether you are ready or not.
And you're saying, when we talk about this, it sounds more like, when we say notice period. But look at it. COVID-19 itself, coming in, it was more like, we are hearing it from overseas.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, it was here.
Yes.
And no warning, nothing.
Not at all.
And all of a sudden, the country had to go on a hard lockdown. All of a sudden, people were now beginning to lose their incomes, loved ones followed, and things like that. So everything was just on the spot.
Yes, happening very, very fast, and we were forced to think on our feet. Here we are facing something that is unique in its nature, something that we have never seen in our lifetime. And yet so dangerous that you cannot ignore it or do nothing about it. You are forced to respond to it. And yet you don't know how best to respond to this situation.
Exactly, because if you remember, we seem to have been very much in control in the beginning.
Yes.
But suddenly, around September, October, and then we started losing people just like that.
An element of denialism was at play in the beginning. You know, it was, as you said, it was something that we heard of, something that was far from us, something that we thought would never come to our shores. And then it comes and we are caught off guard. We are caught napping. We don't know how to respond to it. You see? So, and hence we saw even the government fumbling around, and at times the government seemed to be doing well, but there were times, as you mentioned, around September going forward, we began to lose the battle. And also the response of the general public, how we reacted to this thing. Initially, there was as I said, denialism of some sort. And by the time we came to fully grasp this thing and accept it, the damage was already with us.
The damage was already with us. And, I'm interested in what you have just said, to say losing loved ones, losing the incomes and all those kind of things. But all of this gets to affect the bigger part of the being, which is now the emotional side of the human being.
Yes.
And how much of that has been damaged in most of these cases, or in most of the families?
A lot, Pastor. Look, one family wakes up and the wife has lost her husband. Not only has she lost her husband, but she has also lost the income that the husband brought, because he was a breadwinner, the sole breadwinner. So the devastation is so big. Not only is this woman affected, her children also are affected. The immediate family is also affected. So a lot happens, and by the passing of this one man, so many areas are affected by his departure. So that's how deep the damage of this thing went into our societies. Now, emotionally, this poor woman, as I'm giving an example, is traumatized in a sense.
Yeah.
And here's the worst part of it. Not only have you lost your loved one and it's not over yet, you still have to fight this thing because it's still prevalent very much with us.
Yeah.
And the possibility of even losing more from it is real. It exists. It's with us.
We had families who lost double, the mother and the father.
Yes.
Mother and children.
Yes.
And so forth.
Definitely. I know of such families who lost more than one member of the family. In one instance, people very close to me lost 2 members of their family in 1 week.
Yeah.
So they had to bury the one person who died first this weekend, and the following weekend where they were burying another one.
Yeah.
And you can imagine the trauma, the mental strain, the distress that they had to deal with.
And the other thing, Pastor, is we are talking about the loss of loved ones, the loss of the income. But there's also another dimension of that.
Yes.
Where families broke apart.
Yes.
As a result of this thing.
That has been a reality, Pastor. That has been a reality. Look, with the arrival of this pandemic, as you mentioned, we were subjected to a lockdown.
Yeah.
Meaning, husbands and wives were now forced to be together. I remember a lady saying how painful it is to be locked down in a house with a person you don't want to be locked down with.
and the reality of that was more like people are staying together,
yes,
but they no longer feel the presence of each other anymore.
Look, the movements that people have been, and the freedom of movements that people have had prior to the arrival of this pandemic have been underestimated. We have downplayed the importance. But the arrival of COVID-19 exposed us and revealed how much, how unfamiliar and how unusual it has been for husband and wife to live together. So we were so used to the
in and out of going to work and all that.
Yes, you
all
know,
other external commitments.
Exactly. At least I'm not locked down with you for 24 hours. You know, it's a pop in, pop out kind of a relationship, and therefore we so many people were able to manage that. But when they were forced to sit together for over 24 hours, then something else showed.
Hey. Now, here is the husband and wife. Here is the families having lost their loved ones. There's also another aspect which I feel was really, it's something that has been the reality, but we normally don't really talk about.
Yes.
When we talk of emotions, children are also going through that.
Definitely.
This is another area that got very affected because these children were used to a particular lifestyle.
Definitely.
The shift completely affects them one way or another.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Yes, it does. Look, with children are very active people. The mobility of them is enormous. Now, here they are having to be, cornered, if you may say, cornered, and they are forced to be stagnant in the house. And not only that, in certain families which are not so well off, being locked down in a house where there's not enough food, that can be very painful. And here are the children who now have to sit in one place, and yet they do not have enough food to see them throughout the day.
And they get so agitated, and the one way of trying to calm them down is when they get snack there.
Exactly.
And when there is nothing like that, it sort of brings in another element to them as well.
Yes, that mental strain is felt not only by the parent who is stressed up by the lack of food, but also these children can now feel this pain.
Yeah.
You know? And I can imagine if you are a parent and you are going through that, you are tormented by the situation itself, but you also are tormented by the sight of your children who are now presented with a big situation that they cannot handle.
Yeah.
And you are helpless.
And their expectation from you is huge. And as you put it, you're sitting and you're helpless. You even think further than what they are actually thinking because you're trying to think for them.
In certain cases, parents commit suicide. And that is a reality. Parents, because they cannot take the pain of sitting back and watching their children having to fend for themselves in a sense, because now children are faced with this situation when a helpless parent looks at this situation and they just throw their hands up in the air and give up.
Eish. Pastor, we will continue with this conversation. Let us take a little bit of a short break. This is where we are pausing it. We are going for a short break, and when we come back, Pastor Marima and I, we continue with this conversation. Stay tuned.
He's not afraid. He speaks his mind. He likes the challenge. He's your first aid guy. He's called to resuscitate your thoughts, your dreams, your passions. Mano speaks motivation. He has a passion to influence. He is a passionate leader. He teaches inspiration, enthusiasm, awareness, courage, acceptance, faith, decision making, and action. He is the principal of radio. He's an author. He's a leadership coach. He's certified school leadership coach. He's an entrepreneur. He is a soft skills trainer. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand up and put your hands together for the principal. Mano Ramadwa.
Welcome back to Resuscitation Leadership Conversations with me, Mano Ramadwa, and we are continuing with our topic of the day, the impact and the effects of COVID-19 to families. And I'm joined by Pastor Joseph Marima as we continue with this conversation tonight. Just before we went for the break, we were talking about how and the various areas of our lives, the various areas of families that have been affected. And as we continue, Pastor Joseph Marima, we spoke about this thing. A human being, a family, children, they are not living in isolation. No. They are part of communities in different, rather in their varieties. Now, how has that effect that we spoke about affected now the various communities? And we will talk about the various communities at a later stage, rather the breakdown of those communities. But let's first talk about the immediate community where the people are living in.
Yes.
How has that been affected?
Negatively, unfortunately, Pastor Ramadwa.
Yeah.
Communities, the immediate community has been affected negatively. Look, the passing away of people meant that communities were or are left without key role players.
Yeah.
People who were, before the arrival of the pandemic, were playing a very important, a pivotal role in communities are now gone.
Hey, people are gone.
Yes.
And the other element here of COVID-19 in the community as well was that we know as African people, we are very close-knit.
Yes.
And now one family loses a member there, another one loses a member there. We can't even go there because there is still this monster.
Yes.
The numbers are limited. How has that also been an issue for our communities?
That has been very painful, you know. As you said, we are, as Africans, we are too social.
Yeah.
We are closely knitted together. And when we have events such as death or even celebrations, we celebrate or we mourn together.
Yeah.
But here we are facing a situation that says you cannot even attend a funeral in my family to come and comfort me and console me.
Yeah.
And it also is a pain to you, although you have not literally lost a member of your own family.
Exactly.
But I do. And there you are, stuck in your corner, and you cannot even come and be with us. And, you know, all that you can do is send messages of condolences through
Electronic media and all that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's all you can do. And that in itself has been a pain. As a closely knitted community, we have grown up to learn the importance of supporting each other.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, in this case, that was absent.
Hey, you know, I'm looking at a situation where, because I come from the villages, you come from the villages.
Very true.
And in villages, the people who help the bereaved families, the men and women of the village.
Yes.
And if you're to look at the numbers of people, by far, you would find that on a day-to-day basis, there would be many people who are coming to cook and all other nitty-gritties that needed to be attended to in a particular day. True. But you realize that people are now afraid to come, and some are deterred by the numbers that are expected on the day.
Yes.
And how is that actually done in terms of distancing people away from each other?
It really have separated people. It really have built a rift between people. Something that is new to our tradition.
Yeah.
Because our tradition, as you correctly pointed out, is to support one another. For instance, if I have been befallen by a death or a passing away of a member of a family, I rely, that family, the bereaving family, relies on the community to carry out certain activities, as you said.
Yeah.
But in this case, it was almost a situation where every family was on its own.
On its own.
Every family burying its loved ones without the participation and the assistance of the larger community. And that sort of brings an isolation that in itself traumatizes people, because you do not have the normal support that you would get from your community.
Yeah.
It's every man or every family standing on its own. And we know that not every family is capable of going through such events. For instance, in the homelands where we come from, when a death has occurred in a family, there would be monies that are collected, raised to assist the bereaved family. But in a situation where death happens so rapidly and almost in every household, then everyone is left to fend for themselves. And you can imagine the pain thereof.
I mean, I understand if I have, say for example, it's an event or it's a wedding, and I have invited you and you don't come.
Yes.
I sort of expect some kind of explanation from you. But we all know that in death on its own, the life of an individual becomes the invitation, by extension. So if I am to die, I have already invited you to my funeral.
True.
And many people would want to go and just show themselves up, but they can't. And the ones that are left behind, if it is me who has left, who has passed, and my wife would be expecting Pastor Joseph Marima, Pastor Sorenso, and all the other friends whom I lived with. But the circumstances itself dictated differently.
Yes, we had to respect the
rules and
the
regulations.
as set out by the government, the limitations in relation to the number of people allowed to or permitted to attend a funeral.
Yeah.
Secondly, also there was the element of fear of transmission of this thing that, hey, you know what?
I go there.
The possibility of going there and catching this thing is real. It's you know.
Am I ready to join him at this moment? One might feel, I'm not yet ready for this. And they could be justified.
A gentleman told me a very sad story. It was so sad to me. He says in his family, he buried 3 of his brothers.
Yeah.
And and a 4th member of the family, this time it was his uncle, passes away. He says they are in KZN and he's here in Gauteng.
Yeah.
He says the family in KZN just said to him, don't come anywhere near here.
Because it feels more like, no, they just don't want me to spend money, but they are afraid.
Look, he has buried his 3 brothers already.
Yeah.
And the uncle passes away, and the family says, no, it's enough.
Yeah.
Because now they are trying to protect him.
Yeah.
And themselves also from losing him, that, hey, who knows, if he comes here, he catches this thing, and who knows what happens thereafter.
Yeah.
You know, in as much as we would prefer to have him over here to pay his last respect to his uncle, it is rather better for him to stay where he is.
Yeah.
At least we'll still have him after this.
And we'll give him the feedback.
You know, that's sad.
And that is the one area that we are talking about that has been affected, the community side of things. But there is also another area that has been hard hit, and many times people don't want to talk about it. The area of schooling and education of children, because they are part of this community as well.
To be honest with you, Pastor Ramadwa, no one was spared from this. No one. As long as you are a living human being, you are not spared from. In one way or another, you are affected.
Yeah.
And truly, schools were affected. School-going children were affected.
Yeah.
Their studies were affected.
Ish.
And it is no surprise, but we thank God that the pass rate in our country has not dropped as badly as we thought it would.
Yeah.
But, however, that does not mean that the effect of COVID-19 was not felt by school. It was.
Yeah. You know, when I speak about that, it's a subject that is very close to my heart. And I see children, you know, sometimes they go to school in maybe once in 3 weeks, in other areas, depending on the sizes of schools. And now if a child goes to school like this week and they go back again after 3 weeks, what are the chances of retention of knowledge that they learned at that time? So I look at that and I feel
it's just a problem, because you attend once a week and you'll attend again in 2 weeks or 3 weeks time. You definitely, by the time you go back to school, you definitely feel like you have never been to school.
And the kind of relaxed mode of these children, you know, when they know they are not going to school tomorrow, when they come back home, it's like, no, there is no hurry. I'll do my homework tomorrow. So, you know, a lot of postponement into that.
Definitely.
But the long effect of that is that our children are going to, you know, the movement of their learning or the consistency of their learning has been hugely disrupted.
Yeah, it has. It has. And not only them, but also their teachers.
Yeah.
And speaking about teachers, also the fact that the teaching profession lost quite a number of workers.
Of people, yeah.
Teachers lost their battle to this pandemic in large numbers. And again, that comes back to hit on the children.
On the children, because it's on the one side is the grief from home.
Yes.
The second part is the grief from for the loss of a teacher.
Exactly. Because in as much as we can think of it as, a remote relationship, but teachers are parents. They play a parental role to kids. And as such, a particular degree of relationship develops. And the passing of a teacher will definitely have a negative effect on the life of a child.
And for you, I'm sure you have had to deal with children who were so affected in that kind of situation because their parents also have been affected. The counseling comes in, and you surely must have actually dealt with that. How was the reaction, or how has the reaction of children been throughout this period that we have experienced?
Very sad. The loss, the reality of the loss that children have suffered, it's so real. So real that indeed this has been a time where counseling has been so in demand because of the devastation, because of trauma, because of the stress, and caused by the loss of so many people around people. People being unable to deal with the pressure that has been on their shoulders due to what COVID-19 has caused. So very, very true that indeed people are under enormous pressure, and counseling has been in demand. And we thank God that eventually churches have been allowed to operate, because that has been one area that has been very helpful in offering words of encouragement and also guidance in terms of how people should respond to the pressures that they have to deal with. Yes.
Pastor Marima, let us go for a break. When we come back, you will actually be picking up your mouthpieces and all that, and we are going to perform that CPR. It's going to be resuscitation time when we come back.
I've had this problem.
Big problem.
Coming back with Pastor Joseph Marima immediately after this break to perform the resuscitation, mouth to mouth.
Really needed
professional services.
And I kept searching and searching.
There are so many choices.
It's really hard to find one that has all the things on my list.
But I finally did it.
Yes. Thank you.
If you are looking for one as well,
Look no further.
Here's a really good one.
Just use mine.
Use mine.
I'm very satisfied.
Definitely recommend.
Problem gone.
thank you.
Welcome back to Resuscitation Leadership Conversations. I am Mano Ramadwa, and we are continuing with this conversation as we speak about the effects of COVID-19 to families. Pastor Joseph Marima is still with me here, and it is time that we are to perform that CPR. How can families be helped to resuscitate? Pastor Marima.
Thank you, Pastor Ramadwa. As I was saying, we are very grateful that, number one, top of the list, churches have been allowed to operate. The starting point of our resuscitation process has to be drawing nearer to God. Look, when a pandemic with such devastations as we have seen in our situation, in our case, happen, the one and only help that we get is from God himself. To say to us, look, there's still life beyond this.
Amen.
Because, you see, I was told of a billionaire in Brazil who committed suicide after learning about the passing away of not only his wife, but his children due to COVID-19.
Yeah.
And he took his own life. Why? Because he could not stand the mental pressure that all this loss has brought upon his life.
And regardless of how much wealth he had,
we are talking about a billionaire.
It could not make sense to him.
You know, the pressure, the money was not a problem to him.
Yeah.
But the mental strain that was upon him was something beyond his ability to carry.
Yeah.
So where do we get the mental strength to begin to deal with the losses, the devastation? Where do we get strength that would enable us to say, look, it has happened. We have to pick up the pieces and begin the process of rebuilding.
Yeah.
Only God can give us those words of encouragement. The mental strength that we need to be able to stand firm and say, look, it's true we have suffered loss, but hey, this is not the end of life.
Yeah.
As long as we still have breath in us, we will fight on. We will soldier on.
Yeah.
So only God can give us that strength. And this is the time where we need to make a call to all and everyone out there to say, there is a place of hope.
Yeah.
Just as much as we were celebrating the Passover weekend, where we were remembering the crucifixion, the death, the burial, and the resurrection of Jesus Christ. We are told by scriptures that Christ is the hope of glory, meaning the resurrection of Christ brings hope to our dead situations.
Yeah.
That, yes, there is death all over, because we have not only witnessed a physical death, we witnessed the death of companies.
Yeah.
We witnessed the financial death. We witnessed the death of marriages. We witnessed death in many spheres of life.
Yeah.
But the resurrection of Christ then brings hope to us to say, there is hope to resurrect every dead situation.
Yeah.
All that we need to do is to turn our focus to him and say, good Lord, we are about to rebuild. We need you to strengthen us. And he will speak words of life, words of encouragement into our lives, words which will spur us on and encourage us to keep on going, even when situations, circumstances around us are suggesting otherwise.
Yeah.
You know, we won't be moved by the negativity that is around us, but the positivity that comes from God himself will spur us on to continue the process of the rebuilding of the ruins of the devastation of COVID-19.
You have taken it so high. But there is also the one aspect that I wanted us to find when we say we are resuscitating.
Yes.
Now, here are the young people.
Yes.
We have spoken about resuscitating at a global picture.
Yes.
But for the young person who seems to also be losing the courage to say, I have lost my mother, I have lost my father, I have lost my cousin, I've lost this and that. I don't see any movement, or I don't see any reason for me to continue. What can you say to such kind of a young person?
First of all, Pastor Ramadwa, positive attitude is key here.
Yeah.
Because nothing seems to be working. All around us, all that we can see is death.
Yeah.
Death of everything. Now, how do we rise above this? For starters, we need to be positive about the future.
Yeah.
That yes, I am swimming in a hopelessness or in a hopeless situation, but I am not going to allow hopelessness to determine my future.
Yeah.
I've got to be positive. So even when you don't know how things will pan out, stay positive and look for help.
Yeah.
Seek for help.
That's where I wanted you to go.
Yes.
Seek for help.
Exactly.
Let's talk about that help, because you know sometimes to say stay positive.
Yeah.
Someone will say, "Hey, I've been doing this for the rest of my life," but
yes.
but you have cracked it now.
Yes.
Seek help.
Seek for help. Don't sit down and die.
Yeah.
Go out and seek for help. If you are a young person and you are out there, your situation is bad. You have lost not only your parents, you have lost the family income, you have lost, you even lost your hope. Go out and seek for help.
Because you know why I'm thinking in that way.
Yes.
You have raised a very interesting element here.
Yes.
Because everything with me, if I am in it,
Yes.
it does not make sense.
It doesn't.
But if I say it to somebody else,
Yes.
there could be wisdom coming from that person that I never
Very
thought
true.
would exist.
Well said, Pastor Amado. Because look, it could be a negative situation where you are, yes, it's true, and we sympathize with you.
Yeah.
But not everyone has been affected at the degree that you have been affected.
Yeah.
There are those people out there. There is someone out there whom the good Lord has prepared for times such as this, just for you.
Amen.
Just for the fact that you are still alive, it's reason enough for you to believe that the good Lord still have a purpose for your life, and there is someone not far away from you who has been raised by God himself to help you in times such as this. That person may not necessarily be a pastor or no, the thing is you have to reach out to people.
Amen.
Don't die in your corner. Reach out.
The God who provides.
Definitely. And he will lead you. He will definitely lead you to that person who is quite capable, well equipped to help you. In certain cases, you'll find that it is not only words of encouragement that you're getting, even resources that you need to rebuild your life will be made available. So the number one step to do, of course, I spoke about a positive attitude. That is something that you need to do yourself.
Yeah.
But the second thing that you need to do is to stand up and step out.
Yeah.
Reach out to people. If the first person you speak to is unable to help you, fine. Move on to the next person.
Yeah.
As you look around, I am confident that the Lord will lead your eyes and your feet to a person who is well equipped, who is ready just for you to help you out of the situation.
How effective also is the issue of counting your blessing? You know, I hear people say, count your blessing, count your blessing. But I'm looking at a situation where someone has lost everyone. And you have lost everyone, or you have lost everything. But you still have one thing.
Yes.
Called life.
That's you.
You still have you. You are still blessing. And the Bible says a living dog is much better than a dead lion.
Meaning, if you are still counted amongst the living, there is hope for you.
There is hope.
And you see, just as I said, it begins with you adopting, embracing positive attitude. That look, as long as there's still breath in me, I've got to fight this thing.
Yeah.
I don't know how to go about it, but definitely there is a way. They speak of there's a saying that says where there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah.
In other ways, the will make a way or will help you find the way, because there's definitely a way. Look, all great men and women on earth at some point faced catastrophes in their lives.
Yeah.
You know, but the beauty of it all is that even in our darkest hour, there's always a light,
glimmer of hope somewhere.
Exactly. At the end of the tunnel. You just have to not give up, but keep on living. I am reminded of a story. It's a story, but the moral of the story could be of help to someone listening out there.
Yeah.
A story of a donkey that fell in a ditch.
Hey.
Now,
I remember that story. If a donkey can do that,
yes.
What more of a human being?
A donkey. A donkey fell in a ditch.
Yeah.
And a farmer came through and he looked at the donkey and said, it's a useless donkey. And he drove away.
It's all old and all that. And
a few minutes later, the farmer comes again, this time with his friends, and they say, it's a useless donkey. Let's just bury it alive.
Yeah.
And as they begin to shovel sand into the ditch, and that sand was falling all over the body of the donkey, and the donkey could sense that, hey, I'm being buried alive here.
Yeah.
But then it began to shake off the sand off of her body, and it stepped up.
Yeah.
Every time they shovel sand, they threw sand into the ditch, the donkey shook off the sand off her body and stepped up. She repeated that process of shaking off and stepping up.
Yeah.
Shaking off and stepping up. What she did not realize was that
how closer and closer.
as the sand fills up the ditch, it brought it closer to the edge of the ditch. And eventually she realized that, hey, I could step out of this ditch.
Yeah.
And indeed she did.
Hey.
And if a donkey could do that,
Yeah.
you and I can do it.
We can do it.
We are not in denial of the reality of the losses and the devastation of COVID-19. No. But the truth is that we can shake it off and step up.
Yeah.
And use it as our stepping stone to begin to build
the way out.
Yes.
That story is just so inspirational. But I do know that when we are having fun, time flies.
Oh, yes.
But before we go there,
Yes.
you're an author.
True.
Over and above your counseling services that you give.
Yes.
Please talk to us about your books as well.
So far, I have written 4 books, and there's still quite a number of books that are in the pipeline about to be published.
They are warming up.
They can't wait to see the light of day. But well, let's talk about those that have seen the light of day so far. There's the first book is The Dynamics of Marriage. This book speaks about the principles upon which we can build successful marriages.
Yeah.
And the second one is called Marry Me.
Yeah.
Marry Me is specifically dedicated to ladies, to unmarried ladies
Yeah.
who want to get married.
Sisters who are doing it for themselves.
Exactly. If you want to get married, you sure need this book.
Yeah.
It will guide you on the journey of how to prepare yourself to get married, how to position yourself in a manner that you cannot be missed by your potential client.
And there is this other one.
There is this other one. The third one is behind a faithful husband is a wise woman.
Hey.
This is for married women to give the wisdom of how to keep your marriage intact.
Yeah.
The reality of the matter is that many marriages are succumbing to challenges in our day today. So there is something that you can do about it. Many ladies have been left feeling hopeless.
Yeah.
And this book says to you, hey, there's hope. There's something that you can do to protect your marriage.
Whether lockdown or no lockdown.
Exactly. And the fourth one, which is coming very soon. This one is done. It's just, we will be having a launch of it very, very shortly. It's Hope for Your Marriage.
Yeah.
Now, this one talks specifically to marriages that are in distress.
Yeah.
Bleeding marriages. Marriages that are in ICU.
Yeah.
The marriages that need resuscitation. It tells you how to go about resuscitating your seemingly dying marriage.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mastery of
Marriage mastery is
marriage mastery. Yeah.
it's a course.
Yeah.
This is a course. Look, the primary failure or cause of failure in marriages is our entering or stepping into marriage unprepared.
Lack of preparation.
Lack of preparation. Now, this course, Marriage Mastery, prepares everyone who is about to get married and those who stepped into marriage without preparation.
Yeah.
It's never too late to take this course and begin to unlearn, because there are so many things that we have learned which are very damaging to our marriages.
Yeah.
Wrong concepts of marriages that we have taken into our marriages. So this course helps those who need to make right the wrongs that they went into marriage with. So it's about training such.
For any of those services, how can people get hold of you?
Telephonically, I am at 061 442 4301. And they can also hook up with me through my WhatsApp number, which is 072 403 1871. Alternatively, they can also follow us on our Facebook page, which is Marriage Conversations.
Marriage Conversation.
Yes, Marriage Conversation. And also on my personal Facebook account, which is Joseph Marima. And I am also going by Joseph Marima in Instagram and Twitter.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being part of our conversation tonight.
Hey, the pleasure has been mine, Pastor. It's a pity time just flew out of out of the window.
This pandemic has revealed a number of things to us. It has revealed the areas of strength. It has also revealed the areas of weaknesses. It has revealed how unprepared sometimes we can be as individuals as well as organizations. But most importantly, it has taught us the lessons that we will never forget. The lessons that we are not on our own, we are not of our own, but there is a God living up there who is the provider of every little resource that we need as people, including life. This is where we stop, and we are continuing with these conversations. Of course, next week at 6 o'clock, when I bring another guest to come and have this conversation with us. For tonight, we say we love you and God bless you.
I've had this problem.
Big problem.
I really need it.
And I kept searching and searching.
There are so many choices.
But I finally did it.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you.
If you were looking for one as well,
Look no further.
Here's a really good one.
Just use mine.
Use mine.
I'm very satisfied.
Definitely recommend.
Problem gone.
thank you.